Every year, 73% of enterprise projects miss their deadlines, wiping out $2.5 trillion globally. Teams spend months building meticulous Gantt charts and RACI matrices, yet these schedule failures persist across every major industry. Methodological rigor alone fails to bridge this gap, as even projects with certified PMOs face these identical, catastrophic delays. This happens because standard scheduling tools map dependencies based on an ideal sequence, ignoring the volatility of how teams actually interact. A beautifully structured work breakdown structure often provides a false sense of security, masking the friction that occurs in the real world. High-performing project managers recognize their job is not to track individual tasks, but to manage the volatile, invisible space between those tasks. If your dependency schedule hasn't changed since the kickoff meeting, it has ceased to be a management tool. It is a wish list. The traditional approach to tracking relies on linear scheduling. You link task A to task B to task C, optimizing strictly for calendar dates. This chronological approach ignores the informal, cross-functional connections that dictate the workflow, until a hidden risk strikes task B and shatters the sequence. In project collapses, forensic audits usually find a common denominator, a critical dependency that someone somewhere assumed would just resolve itself. While technical constraints are easy to see, schedules rarely capture soft dependencies, such as waiting for a vendor kickoff or a legal approval. These coordination-based soft dependencies are responsible for 68% of all cascading project delays. Relying solely on standard scheduling software acts as a blindfold, prioritizing the passive monitoring of dates over the active discovery of risk. In 2022, a mid-sized fintech launched an 18-month banking migration with 340 tasks and a certified PMO. The project stalled at month 11, 7 months behind schedule and running 14 crore over budget. A review revealed the register tracked only 62 documented dependencies. In reality, 114 active dependencies dictated workflow. 52 were implicit links, actions everyone assumed would happen, but nobody managed. 39 of those invisible links directly caused the delay. A task list without rigorous cross-team validation maps what a team wants to be true, guaranteeing a collision with reality. Fixing the model requires ending the practice of treating every dependency with equal urgency. Every link must be scored by multiplying its likelihood of failure by its potential impact. Because Gantt charts only display sequence, they often obscure where the actual risk is accumulating. Replacing static scheduling with a dependency heat map lets you plot tasks against each other, color-coding them by risk score. When multiple high-risk dependencies converge on a single task, it creates a visual pressure point, signaling a crisis. Using visual heat maps reduces team escalation response times by 41% compared to reading text-based registers. Visualizing risk concentration allows leaders to solve problems before they happen, rather than reacting to broken sequence lines after the fact. Many teams apply a generic 10% time buffer to the end of every task as a safety measure. Universal padding often functions as organizational anxiety, hiding a lack of control behind a layer of generic time. Precise scheduling requires shifting to targeted float analysis. Float should only be calculated and applied to the specific high-risk dependency chains identified in your heat map. Modeling specific delay scenarios and targeting float reduces total buffer needs by 30% while improving delivery confidence. Time contingency is a finite resource. Applying it universally wastes it, while applying it surgically protects the project's most vulnerable arteries. No software framework can resolve a blocked dependency. Only direct human intervention can. Monthly status reports are insufficient for tracking the complex, shifting interdependencies of a modern project. A tiered review cadence separates immediate crises from long-range planning, daily for the immediate week, weekly for the next month, and monthly for the critical path. This proactive stance applies to third-party vendors, often viewed as out of the project manager's control. Defining escalation triggers before the project begins ensures that blocks are addressed immediately, rather than waiting for a vendor to respond. If API specifications are not received by day X, the protocol triggers an escalation to the vendor's director on day X+2. These communication loops transform a project from a reactive state of chasing updates to a proactive system that forces resolution. When the Bangalore fintech team recovered 3 weeks of their schedule in just 6 weeks, they didn't do it with new tools. The recovery was a result of human accountability, driven by 20-minute weekly heat checks where owners defended at-risk links. This highlights the rule of distributed accountability. When a generalized team is responsible for a dependency, no one actually owns it. Every critical dependency must have one named human responsible for flagging status changes before a project manager ever has to ask. Assigning named ownership reduces average dependency resolution time from 9 days down to 3.2. The highest performing projects are not those with the most detailed Gantt charts. Elite project delivery relies on the relentless discipline to constantly ask one question: what breaks if this doesn't happen on time?